in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's
the Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephas and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. Just when you were starting to miss us, we're back. And for those new listeners out there, I thought I'd give you a quick intro to the show so you know just what you're getting into. I'm Cephas, writer of the Bitchspot blog, and my co-host Mike produces the Skeptic Guide to Conspiracy podcast. Together, we're conservative atheists. Yes, you can be a conservative and an atheist at the same time, as hard as that is to believe. We put together this weekly podcast to point out not only the absurdities of religion, but to show you that you can indeed be an atheist without being a bleeding heart liberal. You can go to the official show website at report.jdragononline.com, where you can find our show notes every week containing links to all the things we talk about. We welcome comments, questions, and concerns on our site, and we also have a presence on Facebook, Google+, iTunes, and now Stitcher Radio. Please tell us how we can improve, and tell everyone you know about us. We're still growing, and we want to make an impact on the atheist community. So how's it been going this week, Mike?
Not bad. Been a couple family issues, but you know what? We'll make it through.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I mean, I've spent the last month getting my mother moved, and Sunday was the last day. We finally got it all on a truck and gone, and the house is empty. And I've spent the last 3 days just so utterly exhausted from all, I've been doing 12-hour days, 300-mile-a-week drives doing this.
Ouch.
Yeah. So it's been no fun. And then trying to keep up with everything else that I have to get doing and keeping up with show prep and finding stories and all that. Not a lot of fun, but at least it's over. I feel like I could sleep for a week, though.
For some reason, I always get roped into helping a friend move, or I'm the oldest of 5, so I've helped move all my brothers. I've moved my ma once, a couple friends, moved one to Wisconsin. That is not fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, I keep going, I don't want to move. I've been here for 14 years. I know sometime I'm going to have to buy a new house, but I really don't want to. But ever since I've been doing this stuff for my mother, I've been going around the house going, what could I pack up or organize that would make it easier to put this stuff in a box if I ever have to do that? So not only am I moving her, I've been pre-moving myself, just conceptually.
Yeah.
So it's like, I need to get a box for all this stuff so I can box it up, and then it's just ready to go when I need it to. And I'll just fill the garage with boxes of stuff that I don't use, and,
Yeah. Well, that's what I do. I mean, I used to have a really kick-ass history collection. I had hundreds of books. And, there was that chapter in my life. I got a girlfriend, and she didn't quite appreciate the, I don't know. I don't think she wanted me smart. So, I ended up having to give away all the books, so trying to move all that kind of stuff. And then I try to keep organized, 'cause I don't like throwing out electronics, the latest, greatest, and you spend a couple $100 on it. You really feel bad when it becomes obsolete or almost obsolete. You just hate throwing it away. So I've gotten to this point where I try to box things up, keep things organized. I know where things are. My other hobbies, I like to tinker with cars and I do woodworking. So I've got half my garage is tools and,
yeah, same here.
Yeah. So keeping all that kind of stuff organized, and of course when you got a brother who sometimes he thinks, I'll just go to the toolbox, grab the screwdriver, and then I'll just leave the screwdriver on the kitchen table, or I'll leave it on the floor in the living room. It drives me nuts. I try to keep a lot of that stuff organized. Not so much that I'm moving, but it's just easier to find, easier to move if I have to move things around, because I've been kind of in this process of trying to get my tools back out. I mean, I've been doing a lot of house, fix it up type stuff. So a lot of my tools are inside, and it's might be a good idea to get it out into the garage. And then the stuff, I got stuff out in the garage that probably should come into the house. So but just trying to keep that organization going, it's almost a job unto itself.
Yeah, I know exactly how that is, because, like, I'm a woodworker, too. And so as we're down there cleaning, I was going through all my dad's old tools. You know, I mean, he died 12 years ago, and most of his tools are still sitting there, because, you know, I never bothered even looking through them back then. But now it's like, I'm going through it going, I could take just a ton of tools home with me, but they're all things that duplicate things that I have. The stuff I've got's better quality anyway. So I just like was really, really selective about what I picked, and the rest of it just went right in the dumpster. Because, I mean, there's no point to having 740,000 screwdrivers and wrenches and all this stuff. I'm sorry, I have all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm getting really, really picky about what I've got and what I keep, as opposed to just, you know, having boxes and boxes and boxes of crap. I've already got stuff like that we just brought home piled up in my shop. Right. Someday I have to go out there and clean that out, but I'm not looking forward to it.
It's the fun thing. I've got kind of my World War II collection. I got my book collection. I got the tools. I mean, I've got electrical. I've got some tools I don't even know what they're for, but you know, they're actually old, antique, so I hang on to them. And yeah, it's a fun. I mean, just trying to keep organized with all that stuff, and you know, all the hobby stuff. I used to be in the RC airplanes.
Same here.
I got a collection of baseball cards that I don't do anything with anymore. What else? You know, stuff like that. And I'm always tinkering. I like tinkering with stuff. And I go out and I bought a microscope. I've been wanting to, I want a telescope and a microscope. And Amazon had them on sale. I got this nice, it had a camera built into it. It was like, 40 to 2000X. It had a 3 megapixel camera built into it, regularly like, was 1,000 something. It was like 300. And I go, I'm doing this. I'm gonna get a microscope. Cause I used to like to do that when I was a kid. I was a nerd with all the nerd toys, and, I always had fun. You know, I go out to the backyard. I got a little ditch in the backyard, so I take a water sample and I'm looking at the little creatures inside it. It's kind of fun. I mean, for me, it's fun. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the listeners, but you know, it's like something I like to do. So
yeah. Yeah. See, I used to fly RC too. I used to drive RC cars. I've still got a bunch of them laying around. And then my mom's dead boyfriend, had a crap ton of baseball cards, and I just kind of grabbed all those to see if there was anything worth anything in there. But sorry, the whole market for baseball cards fell out in 1981, and
yeah,
nothing he had is worth more than a couple cents a piece. So I don't know what I'm gonna do, light those on fire or give them away or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got like 50,000 cards now that are just sitting here. So.
Yeah, because I'm kind of like that. You know, you spent money on this stuff. You don't want to throw it away, you know, and, but you know what? It's taking up space. It's, you know, so it's, I mean, I'd be just happy like with the card collection. I've already separated out stuff that has some kind of value to it, but the rest of the stuff, you know, hey, I'd be happy if there's a card shop who would just take it, let them sell it. I mean, it's going to take up their shelf space, sell it, maybe give me a store credit at some point. That would be cool. You know,
yeah, but
like
unfortunately, there's no value to it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they would probably give you like $15 for 50,000 cards, because that's about all it's worth. It's just taking up space, and they can't even move it. I don't know. I haven't figured out what to do with that stuff yet.
But I guess we've BS'd around enough. Let's go ahead and get on to the news.
And now the news.
There are lots of things to dislike about driver's license photos, but one Oklahoma woman has taken the disdain to a new level, claiming being forced to provide a high-resolution photo and fingerprints violates her religious freedom. She asserts that the biometric requirements are the dawn of the mark of the beast, and she says she can prove it. On her latest trip to the DMV, she refused to provide any of her identifying images, so they refused to give her a license. Small price to pay, she says, to defend her religious rights. She further explained her position as, "The bottom line for me as a Christian was that I believe that the Bible clearly warns us against being enrolled in a global system of identification and financial control that ties to our bodies." That doesn't mean she's given up on the issue. She's hired an attorney, and according to expert outsiders, she may have a legit case. The suit filed points out that the DMV's failure to accommodate her position is denying her the ability to use a debit card, get a prescription, or rent a post office box.
One woman in Oklahoma has refused to provide a picture or other identifying information about herself to the DMV because she claims it constitutes the mark of the beast and is thus a violation of her religious rights. Kay Beach used to provide these things with no problem, but when her license came up for renewal in 2011, she refused because she believes her Christian values are being violated. She's filed a lawsuit against the state of Oklahoma claiming religious discrimination. But seriously, is this a valid lawsuit, or will it just be laughed out of court?
You know what? I have a feeling it's going to get laughed out. Well, I would say, first of all, everyone else in the state has never had an issue with getting a license. So, one, I'm hoping it just gets thrown out as being invalid. You know, hopefully the right judge, and he'll say, yeah, this is all bullshit. Get it out of my court. I mean, but then there's that rare case where maybe with the right shyster lawyer, may be able to press it forward. But I'd like to think that it gets thrown out.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, first off, driving is not a legal right. It's a privilege. No one has a right to drive. So there's that. She's not being discriminated there because she's not having her rights violated anyway.
Right.
Secondly, any of the things that she gets or does not get by having legal identification, none of those things are legal rights either. So what does she lose by refusing not to get a license? Nothing. And she's suing for religious freedom and unwarranted search and seizure. What was really being searched and seized? They asked her for information. She said no. They didn't go break into her house and take it anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The judge is going to look at it. And they may throw out the search and seizure, but they might hang on to the religious part, you know. But even then, precedence is probably going to say everyone in the state has gotten a license. They never had an issue with it. You got the mix, religious and non-religious. No one seems to have a problem with it. I mean, this is an isolated nutcase, maybe just decide just to throw it out as being frivolous or without merit, I guess, without merit or whatever the legal term is for along that line, cause this isn't really a civil. I mean, I think this is no, it's not really maybe just civil.
It's a similar, civil.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but the thing is that she's saying that it's violating her religious rights. What religious rights is it violating? Because she's saying that the Bible says she's not allowed to give out any information about herself or her body to the state. Well, how the fuck are they going to identify her, which is really what a driver's license is all about, if they're not allowed to put any information about her on the license? You can't put her picture, you can't put her height, you can't put her weight, can't put her eye color, can't put anything on there. It'll just be like a blank piece of plastic that she hands to people and says, you can't prove this is really me, but here. That thing has to get thrown out. There's no way the state can do that.
Yeah, but there's been stranger stuff. I mean, get the wrong judge, and you might maybe they want to make a deal out of this. I mean, if they throw it out, I'm sure there's some lawyers who wants to press forward this religious agenda, but the problem is I'm not seeing even for a religious person a lawyer trying to press forward a religious agenda. This would be very tough to press forward through a court system. I mean, because it's a driver's license. Now, I don't know what would constitute that would be a religious infringement or any type of paper that the government would hand out. But yeah, you're right. Driving's a privilege. So, if you won't give the information, you can't drive. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, there's really no way that any judge could ever rule that she has a point. Because all you're going to get are, all the criminals are going to go, hey, we're all religious. We don't want any of our personally identifying information on our driver's licenses or any legal documents. What are these people going to do? Go, well, yes, I know I'm going to prison, but you're violating my religious rights by putting any personally identifying information on my jail record.
Right.
That's stupid.
Yeah. I know for a fact that, especially with convicts and those in jail, trying to pull a religious thing, kind of a religious thing doesn't work. They get those things get thrown out of court really fast. So we probably are seeing something. Again, we're talking Oklahoma. We don't know what might happen, but I would have to think for the rest of the United States, this would be thrown out immediately.
Oh, I'm sure it will be there too, because like I said, there's just no way they can do that and still keep the government functioning.
Yeah, right.
So
definitely.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead and jump to your story?
Okay, this is a neat little article on the Telegraph. If we are cracking down on Twitter abuse, can we include Richard Dawkins and the atheist trolls? You know what, I don't even want to go any further going into this story, because it's really just a rant. You know, I mean, we've done rants here, you know, and it's just a rant that grouping atheists as being these trolls. I mean, you know, picking on those who believe and so on. It's like, dude, what about free speech don't you understand? You know, and kind of singling out Dawkins. I mean, I don't see Dawkins as being a type of guy who would personally go out troll believers, you know, picking arguments with them. There's nothing here that really warrants any type of, you know, should we crack down on Twitter abuse or whatever? There's no Twitter abuse.
Yeah.
You know, this guy just doesn't, it's one of these guys who just doesn't get it.
Well, the problem is, all right, first off, Twitter's a privately owned enterprise. You can't crack down on it through government force anyway. It's not a public utility. So there's no way to crack down. If Twitter wants to change things, Twitter can change things, and there ain't a goddamn thing you or I or anybody else can do about it. Secondly, dude, if you don't like Twitter, don't use it. If you don't like what's said, don't read it. It's really simple. And third, when they start talking about aggressive online atheism, why don't they talk about aggressive online theism? Now, I don't read religious hashtags. I pay no attention to them whatsoever. But when I'm reading atheism or atheist or, you know, any of those specifically atheist hashtags, there's a shit ton of religious trolls all over the place all the time. Bet you this guy isn't going to say a damn thing about any of them because they're just proselytizing. They're evangelizing. They should be able to get away with that. But atheists who ever criticize religion, atheists don't get to do any of that. It's all a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, I do like, he does have his Twitter follow on there too. So, apparently he's been, bugged by, us, atheists. It's a doctor. Dr. Tim Stanley is a historian of the United States, and this is coming out of the UK. So I'm assuming he understands how Americans work, you know, or how we think and how we behave. You know, maybe we're maybe a bit uncouth, but you know what? I'm sure there's plenty of uncouth Brittoners, you know, not to pick on them and, you know, or point that out, but come on, dude. I mean, if you're out looking for it, you'll find it. And Dawkins, I mean, I'm sure, I mean, I think I follow Dawkins. I don't really pay much attention to Twitter unless I'm just checking to make sure my tweets go out for my podcast, you know, and then I'll check or kind of watch for my name popping up in Twitter, but that's about as much as I do. You know, it's like, come on. This is people talking 140 characters. Grow a backbone. Thicken your skin a little bit. If you want to debate the guy, someone who's might be an idiot or, you know, something like that, debate him. If not, ignore him. You know, that's the way things work.
Yeah, if you don't like it, block them. If you don't want to see what they say, get rid of them. You don't have to see what they say. But this is another one of those idiots who thinks that the religious get all the rights and the non-religious don't, and that he gets, you know, he doesn't want to actually see anybody criticizing what he believes. Fuck him, you know? Too bad. You don't like it? Don't use it. Very simple. And that's the true of all social media. You don't like it? Don't use it.
Exactly. I mean, you don't like what you're hearing here? You don't have to listen to this. You know, delete us out of iTunes. Whatever. If you don't like my podcast, you don't have to listen to it. You know, I mean, I've been called an idiot and a turd. You know, I don't care. When I read the article, you know, whatever his writing, it didn't really sound like he knew what he was talking about. And we got an idiot who doesn't understand facts,
Yeah, but you have to remember that a lot of these religious fucks, they not only don't want to see any criticism, they don't want anybody else to see any criticism. This is pure censorship. They want to be able to control the words that come out of everyone else's mouth. They don't want to just say, hey, I have a right not to see it, and I can turn it off. They want to say, hey, you don't have a right to say it in the first place. They don't want other people to have to turn it off. They just want to shut you up.
I don't care. People can talk about me whatever they want. I mean, I try to be nice and all that kind of stuff, but you know what they're going to say? They're going to say what they're going to say. Fine, go for it. I can deal with it. But you know what? When it comes back, if you don't have the thick skin to put up with it, shut it off, because you're just going to drive yourself nuts.
Oh, exactly.
This guy strikes me as another one of those theists who thinks that anybody disagreeing with religion is discriminating against the religious.
Right.
People who don't understand the meaning of the words.
Yeah. See, I never really made the connection if he was a theist. I don't know. Is he?
Yeah, he is. He is.
He is? Okay, because I never really... That didn't come out. I mean, I didn't catch that, or it didn't click in my head. It just sounded like somebody was just making this general thing, and just pointing out that, it's the atheists that are the problem. But if he is some type of theist, then I guess he's just getting ticked off at being made to sound wrong or whatever. And
yeah.
Get a backbone, thicken your skin a little bit, and deal with if you're going to jump into Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus or any of those. If you're going to jump in. But don't expect anybody to have a life vest for you.
Right.
If you feel you're right, go for it, man. In the United States, we do have free speech. We speak our minds to the umpteenth level of crazy, know. And hey, more power to you, but don't try to shut that down, or then of course you're infringing on rights and stuff like that.
No, you can't infringe on religious rights, because religious rights are better than everybody else's.
Right.
It's just stupid.
That's why I thought this was an interesting article, especially with bringing Dawkins. I mean, Dawkins a troll.
Well, Dawkins will go out there and tweet things about religion. He doesn't single out individual religious people most of the time, so he's not attacking individuals, he's attacking ideas. These guys don't want their ideas attacked at all, so they're just, the same thing is true of pretty much everybody on Twitter.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though, but to call him a troll, but then again, if I was a dyed-in-the-wool, Ray Comfort loving, Kirk Cameron following theist, I mean, I probably might even assume that Dawkins a troll, but you know what? I thought that was even ignorant,
Look who we're talking about.
Right. That was my that's basically my take on that article.
Yeah, it's just laughable. It's, you don't even understand the concepts involved here, Nobody is going to censor the internet to protect your precious little feelings. I'm sorry. Right. This is the internet. Now fuck off and deal with it.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump to the next story.
Pope Francis is getting huge welcomes in Rio de Janeiro, and now he says he's really looking for some excitement. The Pope urged young Catholics to shake up the church and make a mess in their diocese. Pope Francis said it's time for Catholics to get into the street and start spreading the faith. He said any church that doesn't make an effort to spread its message this way is actually just a civic organization. The Pope demonstrated what he was talking about on Thursday, visiting a violent slum in northern Rio. The 76-year-old pontiff waded into cheering crowds, kissing people, and telling them the church is on their side. His schedule for Friday includes meeting with a small group of convicts, hearing confessions from young Catholics, and heading to Copacabana Beach for a Stations of the Cross procession. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press.
During the Pope's most recent visit to Brazil to celebrate World Youth Day, he spoke to young Catholics, encouraging them to stand strong and support the Church in light of the troubles with pedophile priests and other religious scandals. While this might sound like good PR, the fact remains that, at least publicly, the Catholic Church has refused to actually solve any of the problems that plague it, or to offer any realistic solutions as to what the future might hold. Instead, All we've heard out of the Vatican is meaningless platitudes and fundamental doctrinal differences. Where this might lead is anyone's guess, as the largest single religious denomination in the world continues to melt down. Seriously, they keep trying to tell kids, oh, well, you need to come and be with the church because the church is cool and don't worry about any of the problems that we're having. We're just going to sweep those right under the rug and you don't have to look at those anymore. Why don't these people learn how to solve their own damn problems?
Or just solving them, period. I mean, come on. I mean, how can you describe this? This Pope is supposed to clean up the church, but, all he's doing is talking. Of course, we've talked about them passing laws about the whistleblowing stuff. It's just a lot of rhetoric and no action.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and the funniest thing I find about all this stuff, and this is diverging a little bit, but we'll talk about it more in the next story, is while he was down there, we remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about him saying that atheists can go to heaven, and the rest of the Vatican came out and said, oh, no, he didn't really know what he was talking about. He's doing it again, saying, well, it's not his place to judge the gays. He doesn't really care if they get married or if the Catholic Church continues to oppose homosexuality. How long is it going to be until the church comes out and says, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, what'd be a good example? Get somebody who might, they chose this guy because he's popular in Argentina, Brazil, South America, which is their congregate base, I guess. I mean, that's where most Catholics now reside. So they got this guy giving them a sense of pride that, hey, we've got a South American Pope, type of thing, So you got this spokesmodel for the Vatican saying all these wonderful things, but the hobgoblins behind him are sitting there saying, oh, no. Yeah, we're not really going to do that. I mean, he's just making it look, making it sound good. We're still going to hide the pedophiles and we're going to shuffle money around and whatever. I don't see anything changing. And it seems like every story, and I know with the next story, we're going to hear the same thing over again. It's just this, a lot of rhetoric, nothing behind it. And actually, what's behind it is we're just going to stick with the status quo. And,
Right.
And it's nothing's going to change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he went to Brazil specifically because it's the largest Catholic country out there. And even there, they're losing members hand over fist. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even their strongholds are falling apart. And I felt one thing that was hysterical in the story was one parishioner came up to him and asked him to visit Venezuela. And he says he doesn't have to go to Venezuela because Venezuela has no sins. Well, that's a good way to diss Brazil, isn't it? I'm here because you guys are all a bunch of filthy sinners.
Yes.
Thank you, Pope.
He's just a spokesmodel.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a mouthpiece. That's it.
Yeah, that's all he's doing. I mean, and great. I mean, hopefully the rank and file, those are going to start saying this Pope sucks. I mean, he sounded good. He's supposed to be this, what do they call him? What are they calling him? The humble Pope. He left behind the Pope mobile. He carries his own bags. All that crap, how he's trying to, humble himself and all that kind of stuff. And then he talks about all this wonderful, we're going to do all these wonderful things. And it just comes down to rhetoric, and that's all that's been coming out of this guy's mouth. Nothing's happening. Nothing will happen.
I think the problem is he's actually sincere in what he wants to do. They elected him to change the image of the church. He's trying. The problem is nobody behind him is allowing any of these changes to actually happen. He's saying, yeah, we should be, we should open up to non-Catholics. We should open up, we should not keep running around going, the atheists are going to hell. We shouldn't be condemning gay marriage and all this other stuff. He's making an attempt. Everybody else behind him is going, nope, that's not the way we're going to do things. We're just going to ignore everything that you say. Well, then why the fuck did you elect this guy? He's trying to do what you elected him to do, and you're saying, nope, we're just going to keep doing what we've always done. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, since we're just having this long discussion about the Catholic Church anyway, why don't you just go ahead and get to your story, and then we can just continue.
Right. Okay. Catholics hear Pope Francis call to shake up church, offer different interpretations. Rio de Janeiro, in the thick of his historic visit to Brazil this week, Pope Francis urged young Catholics to make a mess in their diocese and break out of their spiritual cages. Francis' exhortation during a special meeting with the Argentine faithful on Thursday won him acclaim as the renegade leader of the world's biggest church, but it also left many of his followers with their own interpretations of the pontiff's words about the need to shake up the church. A little bit further in the article, if in my biology class they speak about abortion, I should raise my hand and say I don't believe in that, said Maria Alejandra de Descendio, a 54-year-old Argentine catechism teacher who has traveled to Rio to see her pope, a fellow Argentine. The youth should open their mouths when it's their turn.
I'm sorry, is 54-year-olds considered a youth now?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, church is getting older. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, this is more of that crap where they're just trying to get people to open their mouths and talk about their religions when, the religion is the problem. It's not the people not talking about it.
Well, it's not only just the religion, but it's the people running the religion. I mean, there's just all that stuff going on. And I'm kind of leaning toward it is you got a pope who's, he's playing cheerleader. Come on, gang, let's get back behind Jesus and all this. Let's rebuild the church. Hey, this is, all this wonderful stuff. But you still got this dogmatic, infrastructure behind it that won't let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, we have to go right back to my observation that it's not the Pope who runs the Catholic Church, it's the Vatican. It's the people behind the scenes who are actually running everything. It kind of looks more and more like we were right comparing the Vatican to the mafia. The Pope's just a mouthpiece and the real power is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way the Catholic Church seems to run.
I can totally agree with that. I mean, that's what it's sounding like. Every article we've gone through for the past 5-6 shows has had a story like this, and it's all the same thing. You got these minions running around in the diocese and the archdiocese and all that kind of stuff. They're hiding money and they're shuffling priests around and all that kind of stuff. But then you got this, you got a pope who says everything's great. Church is fine. Come on, let's be the church. And then you get these underlings that are scurrying around in the dark and screwing things up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't think they're underlings. We're all meant to think that the Pope is this great leader who runs the church and speaks for God, but we're seeing really clearly that he's not in charge. You've got the Illuminati behind him for, if you're going to go a conspiracy route, who are actually running things. And then he's just out there supposed to be a mouthpiece, supposed to be the one, the face of the church. And he keeps saying things that they don't want him to say. So they keep coming up behind him and say, well, that's not really true. The Pope was just confused. Well, I'm sorry, but when you get popes who go against the power structure, they don't tend to last too long. How long till this guy ends up dead?
Right.
John Paul I, he ended up dead after 33 days. It wasn't an accident and it wasn't a heart attack. There's an awful lot of stories going around about other things.
Yeah.
Now, that falls into some conspiracy theory stuff, but yeah. I don't believe for a second, he was very unpopular with the Vatican. They offed his ass. It's happened a lot throughout church history where people have died because they had unpopular views and wouldn't keep their mouths shut and toe the party line.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of issues with what really happened. The stories are so messed up, so I don't want to. I mean, it's definitely in medieval times. It wouldn't be uncommon to poison or off somebody. I mean, it happened all the time even within the the various monarchies through Europe. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, but will they try to kill this pope? It's hard to say, but I'm thinking there may be some people wanting to pressure him to, either toe the line or, we're going to figure out a way to get you out,
Yeah, well, they can't throw him out, the only way to throw him out is in a box.
Right.
And if he refuses, I mean, let's face it, he was specifically brought in to give the church a new fresh face, to convince people, he was brought in to be a cheerleader. And if he refuses to toe the line and he refuses to follow their dogma, they've got to get rid of him somehow. There's no way to have him removed from office while he's alive. I wouldn't put it past him to get him out of office another way. And then they'll try to bring in somebody new like Benedict, who was part of the power elite and who actually bought into the dogma. I don't know that this guy does.
Yeah. I mean, unless we're expecting too much too fast out of a bureaucracy. I mean, just getting a bureaucracy moving, maybe taking time, but this is really sounding a lot like they've got a rogue pope saying whatever, not following what his minions are telling him. They're probably feeding him stuff. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Like the president, I don't think what comes out of the president's mouth isn't what he wants to say. It's what some speechwriter puts in his mouth. I mean, all our presidents have done that. Our presidents have advisors and all that kind of stuff who are telling the president what to do, basically. So those people in the Vatican who are supposed to be telling the Pope, hey, you got to say this, you got to say that, but I'm gonna put my lead shoes on. It's gonna take me forever to implement some of this, whatever, and they'll make up excuses that, and again, I think maybe we may be wanting it to happen faster than it can within a bureaucracy. That may be the issue, that these ideas are going to happen. It's just getting enough momentum behind it so that other underlings start towing the line. Or then again, it's just put a pretty face, a happy face on the church and maintain status quo. It could be any of those things.
Yeah, but if you're going to look at the Pope as a leader of the church, as somebody who is actually in charge of what the beliefs are, what is said, what is done, etc., you don't allow your underlings to go behind your back and stand up and say, no, he's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Those people would be out on their ass almost instantly. And the fact is, they haven't been. He's been saying his thing, and they've been saying he's insane. And there's no ramifications that I'm seeing, at least. I haven't seen any news stories where they've gone back and said, priest who said Pope was crazy lost his job and, wound up on the side of the road. That's not happening.
Yeah. It's just so hard to say. And like I said, I mean, what are we really dealing with here? Do we got a rogue Pope? Maybe a Pope they can't control. They're going to figure out something, maybe not good. I could probably say, yeah, there might be an accident coming up here within a few months. Maybe an airplane crash coming back from Brazil. Let's hope not.
Hey, somebody shoots him because he's not driving around in the Pope-mobile.
Yeah, that could very much be what's going to happen. Ugh.
I don't want to come up with conspiracy theories or anything like that, but, there's clearly something nasty going on here, where you've got two sides who completely disagree, one side who's supposed to be trying to bring the church into the 21st century, and the other side who clearly wants it in, the 15th century.
Yeah.
I don't know which way it's going to go.
Right. We might be talking an institution that's been, 1,500 years? I don't know when the official Roman Church, when that actually became an entity. I mean, there's been all those schisms, and there was the anti-popes and all that kind of crap that was going on, but maybe 1,500, 1,600 years of this church trying to maintain that, because when they got rid of the Latin Mass and they started getting rid of all the was it the 50s? What is it? Vatican II. Vatican II. So they got rid of the meat on Friday and all that kind of stuff. But up to that point, 1,500 years of the same stuff over and over again. I mean, they're still hanging on to a lot of have as many kids as possible. It's, fill those pews, every sperm is sacred thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but you still have people who want to get rid of Vatican II and go back to the old ways with everything in Latin and, no meat on Fridays.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have both sides. Where this is going to go, if they actually do get behind, what the new Pope is, or will the new Pope have to get in line with what his, the people behind the scenes are doing? Your guess is good as mine, because I just don't see them thinking that far ahead, I mean, I don't see them thinking of the church, 2040, in 2040, where's it going to be? The predictions saying religion's going to be dead at that time, I don't think they're even looking that far ahead. I mean, they're just interested in maybe, not being proactive, they're being reactive, type of attitude. So,
yeah.
Your guess is as good as mine what's going to happen in maybe the next year, next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years. What's going to happen with the Catholic Church, if it's going to implode on itself or it rebuilds itself. There's no way to tell.
Yeah. So what do you think about the whole reintroduction of indulgences for people who follow the Pope on Twitter?
That's so funny. There was that one show, it was a British, The Day the Universe Changed.
Right.
And talking about when the printing press came out, besides, the first printed Bibles, but the church latched on to the idea of printing indulgences. And thanks to the printing press, they can print these things out. You give you a little bit of money and you got your get to heaven free card. I'm going to say, this is just another one of those church scams. Send us your money and, you don't have to spend time in purgatory. You can go straight to heaven, or you only spend 10 years in purgatory. It's just a scam.
Well, yeah, it is. And then, once again, the church had to turn around and go, well, no, the Pope is completely wrong. You actually have to believe and do this other stuff to get out of hell for free. I just don't get where the Pope and the church are just talking at cross purposes. They don't even seem to know they're not even talking the same language anymore. And it's just example after example after example that we see of this crap going on.
Yeah, that's what's the confusing part. Who is running the show? And, it doesn't seem like the Pope's doing it. He's trying to, I think, trying to be a leader, being the figurehead. Well, I like with all the hoopla over the royal baby.
Oh, who cares?
Big fucking do. It's like, okay, it's just another kid who's gonna get a privileged life. He's probably, he's already probably on the fast track to, education and, career. And then 2 other guys kicking off, then he gets to be king. It's like, okay, so you can be king of, that does nothing. You're just a figurehead. You're just an image, you don't have any real legal standing other than maybe lead, parades or whatever. I guess there's a few, traditions that they carry on. Was it when the king visits Parliament, the Prime Minister goes to Buckingham Palace. He's held under guard while the king goes and addresses. He's held hostage, and I'm using air quotes, until the king gets back, and then they it's all that ceremonial stuff that I guess the Brits love it, and I guess it makes them feel like something. But you've got this royal family that does absolutely nothing,
except suck up tax money.
Except suck up tax money.
Fucking Queen makes like $200 million a year. What for what? People are idiots.
Right.
I'm sorry for our British listeners, but your system of government sucks. And I know being conservative, you're supposed to be conserving traditions and conserving the old ways and all that kind of stuff. But no, the real purpose of being a conservative is to keep the stuff that demonstrably works and get rid of the crap that doesn't. And I'm sorry, but all this traditional ceremonial garbage where it doesn't serve any modern purpose, it's just there because that's just the way it's always been done.
Fuck that shit. That is just obnoxious, and that should be the first kind of crap that gets thrown right out the door.
Well, yeah, it's that, and I'm wondering if the Pope is not just that, is being put into that kind of, he's more of the figurehead. He's not really the nuts and bolts, type of thing. So they can let him rant and rave, like how Prince Charles, he rants and raves over homeopathy and all sorts of bunk. It's like, oh, let him go. He's an old man and he doesn't know what he's saying. It's like, no, he's an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of wondering your guess is as good as mine, what's going to happen with the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, if I had my preference, I'd prefer that the Pope won, but I don't really hold much faith of that because, let's face it, he's just one guy, and you probably got an awful lot of people out there with knives just waiting to get him in the corner.
Or, some random crazy with a sniper rifle,
Paid for by the Vatican. And I hate to do the conspiracy thing, but I do not think we're going to see this guy have more than a couple more months in office if he doesn't clean up his act, or if he doesn't actually flush out the people who are behind the scenes. I don't think he's going to be around that long. I just don't.
Yeah, there's something going on in there, and either they didn't get the memo or didn't send the memo around or whatever. It could be just simply as that. It's like, it's a wait and see thing, I guess. It's all we can do.
That's all we can do. So I guess we'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on and get the main event.
This is the main event.
We've spent a lot of time in recent weeks pointing out the continuing slide of religions. Very few faiths seem immune to the ongoing hemorrhage of members, funds, and support, while virtually every single poll in recent years points to a dramatic rise in the number of people who identify themselves outside of the religious mainstream. I say virtually because WorldNet Daily has been celebrating a study recently that they claim shows a decline in atheism. We thought it'd be fun to spend a little bit of time to look at those claims and see what's really what. First off, seriously, WorldNet Daily?
You know what? I was hoping, we could read the story a little bit and then just kind of feed our listeners, because it was done by a Christian organization. And then we hit them with the WorldNet Daily thing, because when I do my conspiracy show, one of the most prominent sites that seems to come up and always seems to come up is WorldNet Daily and people who are involved with WorldNet Daily. This is it's an organization collected of retards. It's the only way to describe it. And you know what? One of my favorite that has been a writer for WorldNet Daily is this Jerome Corsi. You may have heard of him. He wrote a book on the Obama birth certificate. I just found a book he wrote about abiotic oil. There's a conspiracy that oil is still, is a naturally occurring coming out still today. Apparently there's oil fields that are coming back to life because of oil is still being produced in the earth. It doesn't take millions of years of dead dinosaurs. Apparently there's something going on. The truth of the matter is no, there isn't. It's this guy, when I looked into it, when you look at him, it's actually Dr. Corsi. He's a economist his PhD from Harvard. He's an economist. And you read the Obama birther book, and pretty much this book is full of links. Links to websites, link to various news articles that don't exist anymore. There's links all over the place as his references. And I'm like, I started reading this, and it's like, this is a PhD from Harvard, and he's writing like he's like a high school, doing some type of paper, and just relying on basically plagiarizing and stealing right from other people's work and creating a book out of it. That's the way I read it, and it's like, I really would like to think that someone coming out of with a Harvard education knows that you don't write a book full of HTML links. You do real research. You write what you find. No, all this stuff was just a lot of nonsensical bullshit, a lot of opinion stuff. Opinion polls from CNN or Fox News. The oil conspiracy book. It's all full of all this opinion stuff from, other news sources and stuff like that. And then when I come to find out, Corsi was is one of the main movers in this. He actually got on with Fox News in the book. There's the book, The Fox Effect. And Corsi pops up in this thing, and it caught my eye in the Fox Effect book was that Fox has this really neat setup to create stories where what they'll do is the Fox in the Morning, Fox and Friends show, they'll bring in the craziest of the crazies onto that show to pitch their stories. And then those who eventually go to the website can vote on, did you think this story was credible or, whatever. And the Obama thing really ticked up the survey. So when it does that, then the producers from Fox and Friends hands that information over to guys like Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, the evening crews, and then they start generating stories off of that story, and even going as far as maybe inviting, whoever generated that story. And that's how Corsi really put the birther thing in the forefront. The problem was, the book he wrote, Obama hadn't released his long form birth certificate yet. That book came out about, I think it was like a week, and Trump was doing his thumping his chest over this birther thing, and then all of a sudden Obama says, "Well, here's my full form," and just killed everybody. Killed all of them. I mean, I don't know if that's what really caused Trump to bail out, but Trump was really made to look like an idiot. It didn't really matter to Corsi. Corsi was so ingrained with he's a conspiracy guy right to the core. So it didn't faze him. He was already coming up with, it's a photocopy of the full, all that kind of crap that went in after he released it. But that's WorldNet Daily. That's how they operate. I mean, it's like so low credibility. Whenever I see that in a conspiracy, I know, okay, I got a good one here.
Right.
Cause these guys, there's no credibility, no accountability, and it's anything to beat up on the Democrats, beat up on Obama, beat up on Pelosi, beat up on whoever. They pretend to be conservatives. I mean, they're really not, in my book. They cloak themselves in the conservative, throw the flag around on that I'm a conservative. No, you're a bunch of idiots.
Yep.
There's nothing credible that has ever, I haven't yet to find anything credible ever come out of WorldNet Daily.
Right. But they went and they made this whole argument that atheism is a shrinking demographic. And they did that by looking at some of the polls and seeing that people were not identifying on the polls specifically as atheists and saying, oh, look, that's proof that there are less atheists and more religious people. Well, no, they completely ignore the fact more people are identifying as non-religious, non-believers, not affiliated with any church or belief, but they don't pay any attention to that part because it would blow away their argument. They were identifying their data based on who self-identified as an atheist, but they completely ignored all the people who were identifying themselves as non-religious, which has been a continually growing demographic the whole time through.
Right.
So the whole thing was just faulty from beginning to end. It would be like atheists saying that religion is failing because there's less Amish today than there was in the past, by paying attention only to one thing and not the whole data set.
Right. And that's why anything that comes out of WorldNet Daily, and I wouldn't even be surprised that a Christian group who did this has some internal connection to WorldNet Daily. They make up news. They want to they make up a story. They're going to butcher the statistics. They're going to ignore statistics. Normally I would give them credit, some kind of credit where Well, it's just it's a bunch of Christians. They don't know the difference between an atheist and a agnostic or a non-theist, whatever. They don't understand the non-religious, makeup.
They don't care. It's not that they don't understand it. They don't care. It doesn't matter.
I would normally do that, but not in this case. Not when I see WorldNet Daily and anything associated with them. I know these are just a bunch of fucking morons who don't know what the fuck they're talking about and want to make it sound like, oh, no, there's nothing wrong with the religion. It's all okay. It's just, a small percentage. No, you dumbasses. Every church has been hemorrhaging. We've reported on it. It's happening. I mean, the predictions are in 2041, religion will become non-existent. Yeah, normally I would like to think that maybe they just don't understand what they're talking about. These people do understand what they're talking about. They know it, and they purposely manipulated the numbers to make it sound worse than it was. Because I am convinced, at least in this case, these people do know what they're doing, and they're trying to make the story sound better, or make it, oh yeah, it's not that big a problem. Atheists don't count for anything. It's like, fuck you. Look at the real numbers, dumbass.
Yeah. I've got the real numbers here. For example, the number of nuns, people who do not identify with any religion, has risen from 9% in 1990 to over 20% today. It is going up at an increasing rate every single poll. So it's probably 25% by the next time that Gallup comes out with their religiosity poll. Even the religious don't think that religion is doing very well. There's a study that shows 77% of Americans think that religion and religious influence is declining in America. Even the religious think it's failing. Where the hell are these guys getting these stupid numbers?
Well, they're making it up.
Well, no, they're cherry picking. They're not making it up. The numbers they have are real as far as they go. They're just cherry picking the numbers that they're choosing to report.
True. It's made up for their conservative base. That they always seem to, it's all for the conservatives. The old religious right. I don't know. They like to call themselves, I don't think they're conservative. I call them idiots, but, it's
neocons.
Neocons, it's Alex Jones, the bully, the racist, just the totally retarded aspects of, and these are Republicans. I mean, these are people who, they're Tea Partiers. I mean, that's probably the better way to describe it. These are people who are in the Tea Party, and I know a few Tea Partiers who are honest, but these people aren't, and definitely, they've cherry picked, they've manipulated. I mean, it is only to push forward this so-called, that we're a Christian nation, all that crap that goes along with that. They've got blinders on. They don't want to think outside. Can there be anything but the United States, one nation under God, type of thing?
Yeah. Well, these are people that are operating under a political and religious agenda.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of those groups out there. That Wingnut Daily is probably one of the most blatant about it, but there's a lot of those groups out there who have a position, and they're only going to report on the things that support their position, and anything that doesn't support their position, they're not going to pay any attention to.
Yeah, or try to undermine it somehow. Imagine with this thing, yeah, they probably saw the numbers. I mean, the numbers are there, and they just chose to ignore 20, 25%, 30% of the U.S. population that disagrees with them. It's that mentality.
Well, the real problem is that actual news outlets in this country are pretty much gone. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody's telling the stories that they want to tell, either from a political or religious or social position, or just to sell more advertising. They're not out there to tell the news. They're not out there to just say, this is what happened today. They're out there to tell a story, spin a yarn, and make a buck. And that's how all news outlets are anymore.
I wish I could understand them a little better, but I don't want to in this case, because everything's just so retarded.
Yeah.
this is one of the few times where I can actually say that, you know, these people, they don't know what they're talking about. They're afraid. I mean, I don't know if they're afraid of something. I don't know if they're afraid of, you know, enlightenment, education. I mean, these are people who are opposed to education. They're opposed to, freedoms. They're racist. They're sexist. They're homophobic. I mean, this is like, they worry about the Muslims. I'm not worried about Muslims. If there's people like this in the United States, I'm more worried about them than a fucking Taliban. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring more people into their fold. There's people like me and you are saying that these are people, a bunch of fucktards. And you know what? I mean, it's an insult to people with mental disabilities to call these guys retarded. I mean, these are the lowest scum on the planet, and they have no clue to what damage they're doing.
They don't care.
And they don't care. They want their personal agenda. These are the people who want to round up, you know, homosexuals, put them in pens, so let them die out. These are the ones who want to exclude atheists from anything because they don't have a moral compass or a moral background. And you know,
we're a lot more moral than they are.
They want their women barefoot pregnant. They want to live in the 50s. You know, that whole, you know, the 50s were so great. I don't agree. I mean, the 60s were kind of okay, but if you remember the 60s, you weren't there type of thing. You know, whatever. They want to go back to some time that things were so happy, and no, we're in the 21st century. We're poised to unlock new secrets of the universe. We're moving forward, people. We're not moving back. You know, get with it. Get with the program. The Tea Party, these neoconservatives, these conspiracy guys, the Alex Jones, all these guys, you're going to have to get with the program. The world has changed. If you want to be left behind, fine. You know, go crawl back into your cave, you know, beat your women over the head, do whatever. I want to live I'm living in the future, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd probably prefer they didn't go out and beat their women and all that kind of stuff, but I get what you mean.
These people don't get it. You know, they don't get it. They don't understand it. They don't want to get it. They don't want to understand it. They're just, they're relics.
Yeah, and that's why religion is failing.
Yeah.
You know, and the funny thing is remember last week we did a news story about the religious not even being able to agree on what religion was? There's a report out of the University of Chicago that shows that religious belief is not only declining worldwide, but that the number of theists who claim to know that God exists and don't doubt that at all is falling dramatically. They're moving away from a belief that God exists to just some vague acceptance of doctrines and feelings. So they're failing even faster than they realize. Because people are no longer believing in gods, people are just believing in, you know, happy, fluffy, whatever crap. Yeah. You know, spiritual nonsense. They're not actually believing in organized religion.
Right. Yeah. And really does come down to, if you want to live in the past, go for it. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed being a kid in the 60s, but, it's 2013. I want my I want the jetpack, and I want to go to take a trip to the moon or take a trip to Mars. I'm hoping that something like that could happen, but,
yeah, where's the flying car? Come on.
Right. And, you know, when you got people like Corsi, people who write for WorldNet Daily, they don't want that. They want this old, medieval.
Well, the problem is they want to live in a past that never really actually happened. You know, they want to live in this fantasy world that never existed. They want all of the modern conveniences without any of the modern social beliefs and social positions. They want to live, you know, the days of Jesus, but they still want their Jaguars.
We've got modern science. I mean, we've got vaccinations. I mean, I'm seeing this stuff about Jenny McCarthy who wants to, you know, now that she's on The View, there's a whole hubbubaloo over that, you know, mainly because she's an idiot and believes that vaccines cause autism, which has been disproven.
Yeah, but she doesn't care about that.
But it doesn't matter. Yeah, she doesn't care. I mean, she's got fans that believe in her or believe her, and it's like, come on, Jenny McCarthy's between. Was it on Skeptoid where somebody was saying that they've done a body count, and they seem to believe, a couple million people have died thanks to Oprah Winfrey. I think they've named, Jenny McCarthy, and was it that Meryl Doherty in Australia? All these people, these anti-vax people, millions of people have died thanks to these knuckleheads.
Right.
And, now I don't know what kind of, I'm not going to make any, whatever, but it's that mentality that they believe that vaccinations are bad. It kind of goes the same thing with we want to hold on to our invisible sky god, we want to hold on to, this Judeo-Christian gods and all that kind of stuff. Hold on to this stuff because it makes us comfortable. I don't know if that's what they're trying to do, but it's like all you're doing is making the planet worse.
Right.
Come on, get with it, people.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is the Western world has moved into a post-religious phase. We've largely moved beyond the need for religious beliefs, and we're just waiting for the late bloomers to catch up or the really stupid people to drop dead. The more that I think about it, looking at all of this information, I've been really kind of skeptical about that 2041 number. Because I don't think that there's any real data that you can really project out that far. But when you start to look at who the religious people are, who tend to be the old people who are going to drop dead, and who the non-religious people are, who are, millions of kids coming up today,
yep.
It actually starts to sound a little bit more possible.
Yep. It's plausible. I mean, it'd be nice. I think it's a nice number. I think it's good. I mean, yeah, you're going to get these older, old, heavily dogmatic, they've been locked in their dogmas and the way they've been raised. But you got a up and coming, a young, they're educated. A while ago, I was looking at education in the United States, and there's this, I noticed it was kind of, maybe I should try to get it to you, but, cause I did a Excel chart, and it was based on age and level of education. And I noticed, cause we were talking last week about that there's this rising, dropout rate in high school. When I had this chart, I noticed that there's this slug of 18, 20-year-olds that are without education. But there's also a slug of those 70, 80, and 90. And of course, I'm looking at it and I go, that's about the time of the Great Depression. So, the older people without the education, I mean, it makes sense because many times they were kids at the time. So more than likely they had to go and work instead of getting an education. So I don't want to beat them up for that, but it seems that where religion has been declining and getting beat up is because you got an educated populace. So people with education have pretty much rejected religion, and it kind of fits in because many of the Tea Partiers, they don't want people to get educated. Texas, they've been totally opposed to teaching science and social studies, and we're seeing backlashes from that. We've done stories on that. So I'm thinking, if we get with the young, highly educated population is the downfall of religion.
Yep, and the free availability of information, which is why the internet is where religions go to die.
Yes, without saying.
Yeah. All right, well, we should probably finish up for the week. When you look at the real numbers, not the cherry-picked numbers that Wingnut Daily's been using or whoever came up with the information that they're using, you find out that atheism or non-theism or non-acceptance of religions is growing at a really amazing rate, and it's accelerating, and that religious belief is falling like a stone. There's no way to deny that. There are studies after studies after studies, and I'll put a lot of those studies into the show notes for people to look at. Religion is dying a quick and hopefully very painful death. Non-religion, people just don't need it anymore. People just don't need religion anymore. The world is fine without believing in imaginary friends in the sky. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think it's only to be expected that the religious fanatics are going to do everything they can to lie and cheat and steal and all the rest of that to keep their power and beliefs going for just a few more years.
Right. And with this educated populace that's coming up, they're seeing right through that. So, I mean, it may be a win-win for everything. Anti-religion.
Oh, I certainly hope so.
I got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, me too. All right. I guess that wraps it up for this week. Remember to follow us on Stitcher Radio and all of our social media sites. We'll be back next week with another adventure into conservative atheist thought. If you have any suggestions about what we should tackle next, either post to our website or email us at report@jdragononline.com. Thank you for your continued support, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephas and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The B-Spot Report. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are at our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.